possibly also some resources that you've tapped into that
Sure.
would be good from?
The biggest roadblocks is accepting rejection.
Yeah,
Because no matter what you are entrepreneurial, no matter how skillful you need a thick skin. And if you don't, and I'm an overly sensitive person, I wouldn't be in the mental health field if I wasn't. I mean, even there are some people that aren't, but many of us are. But you have to have a thick skin. You have to bite your tongue and say, thank you anyway. You need to not let it get to you, because it can get to you. And there's not always, sometimes it's very subjective. They don't like the way you look. They don't like the way you sound. They woke up on the wrong side of the bed. Who knows? So the number one thing is being able to just persevere through rejection, because you will get rejected over and over and over. And
sure.
then eventually you might be right, but you won't. Eventually you won't, though, if you stay with it. I just keep reading. I read inspirational people. Napoleon Hill really changed my life in many ways, because I feel his message of success, the philosophy of success, could resonate for everyone. And most people in mental health have never heard of Napoleon Hill. I've asked so many people, no. But it's really a book of psychology, because his message is ageless. It goes, if you were reading it now, and he was talking about the internet, it could be interchangeable to when he wrote it in 1937. And I think his principles really resonate with the world of psychology around perseverance, resilience, grit, whatever is the latest word that works best. So books like his. What else do I read a lot, which I think really inspires me. I go to the National Speakers Association to hear other speakers speak about what's interfered. And a lot of them say many things kind of in a different way, but similar, but you always take a nugget. I always take a nugget. I also, to help me, is I write down. If I get an idea in my head, I write it down. And that's just because I'm a writer now. It's just, I won't remember it. So with tools on the internet, you can do that. OneNote with Microsoft, or just write it down. Anything that comes in my mind, I write it down because I'll forget. And that helps me keep going.
Sure. Excellent. Good points and good tips there. So how would your personal values and beliefs play a role in your business, and how would you advise others to incorporate theirs into their own business?
Sure. Well, as I said to you, I'm a real believer in giving back. I'm a believer in being positive. I'm not Pollyanna positive. I'm not an unrealistic, just, blink and life will go on. But recognizing that life is full of unfairness, that is a given. Some people do have it easier. That is a given. You can sit there and wallow in that, or you can say, okay, for me, my personal value is that. What are you going to do? I mean, I could tell my story. Everybody has a story. I believe in taking that and what you have and making the best of it. And I also believe when people say there's nothing special about me, I don't have anything that's unique. We all are unique. I think every single human being has something, whether it be a skill or a tool or an untapped creative aspect to themselves, that if they tap into it, they will discover it. Now, sometimes time is a factor. We know people raising their families. But if you wake up in the middle of the night again and you think, write it down. So my personal values are to not let adversity stop us. There's so many people that have overcome the worst of the worst. And my belief is that you have to keep a positive mindset. And do I always? Of course not. But then I wake up and I say, okay, this is what's good. This is what's not. What can I do to overcome this? So I don't know if I'm answering it, but personal is being very positive. It influences me. And I send the message out to people without even knowing it sometimes. They'll say, how do you stay positive? I said, I didn't even know I was. It's just because I really believe in the capacity of every human being. Uniqueness, everything.
Sure. Yeah, and some good nuggets there for people to listen to. So what's something that you maybe wish you would have done earlier in life that you did not do? Is there something that you kind of look back at and would say, you would have done differently?
Yeah, I don't have a lot of regrets. I mean, everybody has a here and there, but what I would have done, I think I would have ventured into the speaking world sooner, because, I am as they would say, a sexagenarian, a woman of 60, and you only have so much time. That we can't control. But other than that, and sometimes I think, I am a little older, but then I heard Cabot Roberts, who founded the National Speakers Association, didn't start getting paid speeches until 65. And I heard that and I thought that was music to my ears because I've already started getting paid. So when I think about, I wish I'd started sooner, I also think these reasons they happen now. I really believe that certain events created it to happen now. It may not have happened if these events hadn't happened. And what are we going to do? I'm not going to, that's a little bit of a regret, but it wasn't meant to be. It was meant to happen now. So I kind of, I move away from it.
Yeah. And I like that point of kind of how you're mentioning that is, we can have the regret, but not really dwelling on it because all the things that lead us up to it,
yes,
all those things were required. So, granted, if we had a choice, we might have done things differently, but we might not have also been where we are now had we done it differently. So it's sort of that catch-22 scenario there.
Yes.
So when you were starting your personal businesses, how did you transition into that from a more traditional 9-to-5 type structure?
Well, that's a good question. That was way back in the late 80s. And what happened was I worked in mental health clinics at the time. And I had a friend that said, what are you doing? You don't make a lot of money in mental health clinics. Now, I know in my profession of social work / psychotherapy, you don't make a lot of money anyway. It wasn't the main reason, but you could make more money. And she said, why don't you go into private practice? And you'll have control over your schedule. You can build one and make a lot more money. In the 80s, it was a much more lucrative idea. It's changed a lot. It's not quite as lucrative, but I decided to take the plunge. I gave my notice. Some people said I was crazy because I left the 9-to-5 safety and I found some other side work, contract work to help me while I was building my practice. And then I never looked back. I basically have been self-employed for almost 30 years. And it's been a very good thing for me. I always say we pay a high price for our freedom because, you have that self-employment tax. But I said,
sure.
But our freedom, we have our freedom. And once in a while I'll hear there's some good things about being in more of a corporate world or being employed by someone. There's some benefits we miss out on, but when I hear stories, sometimes it's not so easy. I'm glad I made this. I'm glad I made the move. It's worked for me for over almost 30 years.
Yeah, and one of the things I would say was a key takeaway there is you're mentioning that you had also some side things that you were doing while building your practice. So many, it's like they try to jump into the deep end of the pool and don't have something on the side, or just do it. Try to jump in 100%. To go cold turkey from the 9-to-5 and straight into entrepreneurship. And that's pretty hard.
Yes.
It's what I did, but
Wow.
Also I could say that had I been able to do differently, I would have chosen different because it was very difficult to go from the safety net of the 9-to-5 to going into doing everything yourself and being responsible for the whole business.
Yes.
Because there's a whole lot.
Courageous. That's very courageous.
So when you were building a practice, though, the things that worked were those pretty obvious for you, or did you kind of maybe even stumble upon the answers as far as how to do that entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, when I did it, I had a couple of contractual jobs that came along. I did some employee assistance work. I worked at a Job Corps, but I also had worked under this woman was going to generate referrals to me if I paid her rent for both her offices. And I don't know the legality of that now, but at the time it was fine. And the problem is that I was under her auspices and I wasn't developing my own name. And her and I broke away. We just went our separate ways. And then I was able to I had some clients. I was able to generate my own referrals. And again, tenacity. It took a good 3.5 years for me to be more known and get more physician referrals, which at the time were your gold nuggets. You get a physician to even now it still is, but really back then to get one physician to refer to you, and that's what started happening. But yeah, I think if I'd stayed with this person, I would have stayed in her shadow more versus really just letting go and doing my own thing.
Okay. So what compelled you to go into the therapy direction in the first place?
That's a great question. I've been always wanting to help people. I think I didn't know what I wanted to do when I came out. I was in high school. I was one of these people. I liked art. I liked history. I liked anatomy. I liked psychology. And then I had no idea what social workers did. I thought they just made home visits. And I was in college. I started out in secretarial college. I hated it. Transferred to the local university, double majored, and I was about to drop one of the majors. And it was urban studies and psychology. And one of my professors said, why don't you think about social work? I said, why would I want to think about social work? And she explained what they did, and that was it. I decided, okay, they help people, they do counseling. I had no idea. A lot of people still don't know what we do. We are part of the mental health disciplines, and many people don't know that still. So I took a year off. I worked at Head Start as a social worker, and then I went off to Boston University, and I never looked back. I knew that was what I wanted to do. I never stopped, and I went and worked for the department. It's now Children and Family, the Department of Social Services, Children Protective. And then I went and worked in a mental health facility. And then I went to the mental health clinic. And then I went on my own. And I'm glad I waited to go on my own because I was very young looking at the time and you wouldn't be taken seriously. So I was about 30 when I went on my own. The only ones that would have taken me seriously is young people and adolescents. So by then I was a serious character by then.
Yeah, and a lot of us find that, we tend to work with people that are probably 5 years older, 5 years younger than where we are. And
yes.
So we have to, be mindful of that, that particular demographic. And, is that going to be a lucrative demographic or not?
Yes. Yes.
So is there a particular profession other than what you're doing that you maybe have toyed with going into, or do you really feel like this is the only thing you want to do?
Well, I really do, as I said, I want to really move more into the speaking and the writing world, but it's really kind of a graduation from what I'm doing now, a lot of therapists. But, over the years, I used to think I was artistic years ago. I also loved history. But more as my adulthood, I was thinking of sales because it's in the people business, and selling was more lucrative. The therapy world really took a plunge when managed care came, and managed care has been our blessing also. Do not get me wrong. The insurance companies, more people use our services now, but they also limited our fees, very much so, very tightly managed them. So it made it less lucrative. And at times during my career, I thought about leaving and going into sales, but I always ended up being back and talking to people and listening to people. So that didn't work out, and that's fine. It wasn't meant to work out. I really was meant to do what I'm doing. But again, now that I've discovered this other part of my professional identity, if you will, I'm enjoying it immensely.
So what would you define as your greatest character strength?
My greatest character strength is probably being positive and energetic. I've been told I have great energy and I'm very, very positive. Even when something's negative, I try to make it positive or frame it that way. So and again, it's not a Pollyanna positive. It's a really true, heartfelt positive and belief in other people, belief in the better, belief in the good things in the universe, and yet understanding what's not well, but not letting people, they have to sometimes visit that, unfortunately, to get past it, but to not stay in it, to move past it and see that there's light at the end of the tunnel. So positive.
Sure. On the flip side of that, what would you say is perhaps the greatest weakness that you would identify?
Sure. This is a dichotomy. I'm very, very patient on one extreme. I'm very, very impatient on another. I have a lot of passion, that can be very positive, but there's some where it can't be. So I have to really watch it and